Hare Krishna Yagyathanish Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Good. Early Friday. Where are you, friends? Are you in Canary Wharf?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna, please send my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I pay my respectful obeisances unto your feet.
I pay my respectful obeisances unto your feet. So can we begin?
Yes, Maharaj, we can begin now.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksuranmilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So welcome everyone to our study of Bhakti Sastri. We're studying Bhagavad-Gita, and this evening we're looking at chapter number 8. Oh, just a minute.
Maharaj, I had one question from chapter 7. Can I ask?
Okay.
Maharaj, I was reading the book Surrender Unto Me by Gurujan Prabhu for the summary. And in for verse 16, where 4 types of pious people who surrender to Lord are defined, there I read examples. So as you also mentioned that for Jigyasu, the example was of Shaunak Rishi. So, and for Gyani, in Surrender Unto Me, I see example of two devotees, Shukdev Goswami and 4 Kumaras. So I was just wondering, is there a difference? Because we were discussing that this Jigyasu category is Karma Mishra Bhakta, and those are a little lower than Gyanis, who are Gyan Mishra Bhakta, and those generally turn to become a devotee. So here I see a difference between Shaunak Rishi, who is a Karma Mishra Bhakta, and a Gyani like Shukdev Goswami and 4 Kumaras, who are Gyan Mishra Bhakta or come under the category of Gyanis. So is there a difference between should we compare between these two types of devotees like Shaunak Rishi and Shukdev Goswami?
Well, yeah, of course there is a difference, Definitely, they're both great souls, but there is a difference. Sukadeva Goswami is definitely a very special soul, that he was able to speak the Srimad Bhagavatam in such a manner that it attracted even Narada Muni and Srila Vyasadeva to come and sit and hear. So we know also that Sukadeva Goswami, he is a liberated soul from birth. He had no attraction at all for the material world, and he left home after being in the womb for 16 years. He just immediately left home without waiting to undergo any kind of ritualistic ceremonies which his father wanted to offer. So he was really a very elevated transcendentalist. He's an avaduta, right? He doesn't belong to any of the divisions of orders of life. Shaunaka Rishi, he's also a very great soul. He's very, very senior. He's been around a very, very long time. It's a very long duration of life, and that's why he very much appreciated all the sages who had gathered there. They selected him to speak on their behalf. So the sages of Naimisharanya are described as being the jignasu, as being curious, because of their inquisitiveness, because of their questions. That's certainly a good quality. I wouldn't say that's the only quality of Shonaka. We could say, that he showed that quality in coming there and putting questions before Sutta Goswami. But he was certainly a very, very enlightened soul. And when he speaks, you can feel the potency. I was telling last night about Shonaka, how he was speaking, glorifying, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And he was so eager to hear Sukadev, and he inspires Sukadev. The teacher needs to be also encouraged by the audience. So the combination of Sutta Goswami and Shonaka Rishi was very good. That Shonaka, by his questions, he was enlivening Sutta Goswami to speak more on the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, it's not really, I don't think it's really fair to just say that Shonaka is Karma Kandi Brahman or what, Karma Mishra Bhakta. He's really a very great soul, and he has a great appreciation for the Srimad Bhagavatam and for hearing topics of Krishna.
Okay, man. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay, so Baladev here described, Srila Baladev Vidyabhusan describing the Amsha of Krishna, the Purusha, is obtained by Yoga Mishra Bhakti. However, Krishna himself can be achieved only by Ananya Bhakti. So Yoga Mishra Bhakti will be described in this chapter, and so also will Ananya Bhakti also be described in this chapter. So Srila Baladeva Vidyabhusan is pointing out, he's summarizing the chapter here, that the Purusha, who is simply an Amsha of Krishna, he can be obtained by Yoga Mishra Bhakti. But Krishna himself can be achieved only by Ananya Bhakti. In other words, you have to come to this level of Ananya Bhakti to actually approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his supreme form as Bhagavan Sri Krishna, Bhagavan Swayam Krishna. But if you do something like Yoga Mishra Bhakti, you hear chanting Om and so on, then you may end up approaching the Purusha, who is an Amsha of Krishna. So difference here. So Baladeva Vidyabhusan is giving like a warning there, the difference between Yoga Mishra Bhakti and Ananya Bhakti. All right, and then just to review quickly what we covered yesterday, we spoke about the 4 types of people who surrender and don't surrender to the Lord. Right? We were hearing 4 kinds of people who surrender. Mudha, Naradama, Maya Aparita Gyana, and Asura Bhavam Ashrita. And those who do surrender, the ones with Sukriti, we have the Arto, Jignasu, Artati, and the Gyani. They are all surrendering to Krishna, and the 4 of the 4 who surrender, the best one is the one in knowledge. Because why? That's the next point. Why a Gyani is considered most qualified to begin Krishna Bhakti. The Gyani is considered most qualified to begin Krishna Bhakti because he doesn't have material desires. He doesn't have material. He doesn't have any gross desire, any desire for sense gratification. He's just interested in knowledge. So he's more qualified to begin bhakti. And why demigod worshippers are less intelligent? Well, I think you all know that. Because they get things which are limited and temporary, and they remain in the material world. Then we spoke a bit about Prabhupada's mood, as how it compares to Lord Nityananda's mood in delivering the fallen souls and tolerating being assaulted and abused and so on, and going everywhere and preaching. So that was Lord Nityananda's mood. And how Krishna is covered by the internal potency. Krishna said, I am never manifest to the foolish and the unintelligent. For them I am covered by my eternal creative potency. So Krishna is Krishna actually covered? Rather, these people are covered. Krishna himself is not covered, just as the sun is not covered by clouds. Krishna himself is not covered, but the vision of the materialistic people is covered. Just as the clouds may cover our vision of the sun, but the sun is not covered. The same way Lord Krishna is not covered by the internal, is not actually covered by the Maya. The internal potency, of course, is covering Krishna to reveal Krishna through one of the rasas. Right? Maya acts on that way, that it covers up Krishna to reveal him in one of the rasas. So the internal potency acts like that. That Lord Krishna will be revealed as the son of Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. And he will be revealed as the lover of the gopis, and he will be seen as the friend of the cowherd boys and the friend of Arjuna. So like that, the internal potency covers up Krishna to reveal him in the different rasas. And then finally, the relevance of punya karmana in practice of Krishna Bhakti. How do we actually get Krishna Bhakti? Where does it come from? It has to come from the devotees. And that's the highest punya karmana. If we get punya karmana in relation to the devotees, by serving the devotees, then that can give us Krishna Bhakti. This point is often made. You can read in Srimad Bhagavatam, Hiranyakashipu was asking Prahlad, where did you get your bhakti from? Where did you get all this devotion for Vishnu from, Prahlad? And Prahlad said to his father, Matirna Krishne Paratasvatova Vibhopi Padyeta Grehavratanam. He said, oh, it's not so easy to get bhakti, father. He said, you don't get it by your own endeavors, and you don't get it by instructions from others. And Prahlad said, if you're interested just to remain in the family life, then you just remain, chewing the chewed, punash punacharvita charvananam. So how did you get the bhakti then? And Prahlad said, Naisham matistavad urukramangim sprishati anarto pagamoyan mahiyasham padarajo bishekam niskinchananam nanavritiyat. You have to take the dust from the feet of the devotees. You have to get the mercy of the pure devotees. So that is the real punya karmana, which we need for practicing Krishna Bhakti. Right? We quoted Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He was describing how there's punya karmana on different levels. There's bhukti unmukhi sukriti, and then there's bhakti unmukhi sukriti, and then there's also sukriti which will give you liberation. So we have to be careful what kind of punya karmana we do. We want to get Krishna Bhakti. We have to get it from the devotees who are niskinchana, who are free from all material designations. All right, so we're going to go ahead. Chapter 8, we'll hear. Oh, Krishna answers Arjuna's questions. Arjuna has some questions, right? That came at the end of the 7th chapter. At the end of the 7th chapter, Krishna was using some terms which Arjuna was not familiar with. So we'll see in the beginning of the 8th chapter, Arjuna asks about these terms. He wants to understand them. And Krishna explains them. So that's the first 4 verses. And then verses 5 to 8, we'll hear about remembering Krishna. Very important, right? Always remember Krishna and never forget him. It's very important. That's the essence of all scriptures. So we want to improve our remembrance of Krishna. And then we'll hear about Yoga Mishra Bhakti. We were hearing, by Yoga Mishra Bhakti you can attain the Purusha. And then we will hear, in contrast, pure devotional service, Ananya Bhakti. We can choose. Krishna gives so much choice in the Bhagavad-Gita. He doesn't say only this way, he's giving so many choices, this yoga, that yoga, which way do you want, you know? So many things are offered. Then we're going to hear about the comparison between the material and the spiritual world. Text 17 to 22, comparing the 2 realms. And finally, up to the end of the chapter, text 28, explain how Karmis and Gyanis leave their bodies. Prabhu, I won't take any more tonight. Thank you, Prabhu. How they leave their bodies and different demigods help them in their journey. When they leave their bodies, different demigods are there to help some of these people to make their journey. All right, so the first topic of this 8th chapter, Arjuna's inquiries, 7 topics, and you can see we've listed the 7 topics there in the center. Brahman, Adhyatmam, Karma, Adibutam, Adidaivam, Adiyagyam, and Katam Gyayosni. Right? So Krishna mentions these things. He'd mentioned them in 729 and 730, the last 2 verses of the 7th chapter. And Arjuna will inquire about them in the 8th chapter, with the first verse and then the 2nd verse also. So Arjuna wants to know, what are these things? He wants to understand them properly. And we've shown it very briefly, very simply here, how we can understand these things. Actually, it's all answered for us in 8.3, the 3rd verse of the 8th chapter. We get the answers to these things. For example, what is Brahman? So, Lord Krishna says, the indestructible, transcendental, living entity is called Brahman. And then what is Adhyatma? And that is answered that his eternal nature is called Adhyatma, the self. Right? So the eternal nature of the jiva is described there. And in the bracket there, a little quote from Baladeva Vijayabhusan. Impressions held in the subtle elements which accompany the jiva, birth after birth, described as such in the Panch Agni Vidya. Right, the 5 sacrifices. So the Adhyatma, the eternal nature of the self, and Brahman is the transcendental, indestructible living entity, the jiva. And then he wants to know what is karma. And karma is described as that action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entities. That is called karma or fruitive activity. Here we've simply said activity that develops a body, Vedic sacrificial process. So we develop a material body. The bodies which we have now, these are the manifestation of our karma from the past. According to our karma, we get this body. Some are in male bodies, some are in female bodies. But we all have the body due to the karma. Right? And then, next verse goes on to describe what is Adibutam. And that is described that the Adibutam means the physical nature which is constantly changing is called Adibutam, or simply the material manifestation. Right? The physical nature is constantly changing. Just like our material bodies, they're constantly changing. Cells in our body are changing, our body is growing, and then it grows old, and it goes through changes all the time. And so that's the nature of the material manifestation. It's Adibutam, constantly changing. And Adidaivam is the universal form of the Lord. And within that universal form, all the demigods are there. All the demigods, even the sun and the moon. It's all Adidaivam. And we're also there in the universal form somewhere. We're not so prominent, of course, as the sun and the moon. There's different demigods. And then Adiyagya. So Krishna says, I, the Supreme Lord, represented as the super soul in the heart of every embodied being. This is Adiyagna, the Lord of sacrifice, the Paramatma. So that's in 8.4. So Arjuna wanted to understand these things, and Krishna answered, explained clearly. And then he also wanted to know about the end of life. How do we attain the nature of the Supreme? How can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? So this is Arjuna's question. And actually this is the real subject matter of the chapter. The other items were dealt with very briefly, but the rest of the chapter deals with this point. How can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? So you could say, Lord Krishna brings this up immediately after quickly dealing with the other subjects. He says, verse number 5 of the 8th chapter, Antakale chamameva smaran mukva kalevaram ya praiti samadbhavam yati nas yatra samshayaha. Right? The verse, Antakale, at the end of life. So this is a test, right? We get our exam, final exam is coming to us at the end of life. We want to pass that exam. It's a lot of trouble. You know, when we study, sometimes if you fail an exam, or maybe you're learning driving, and you have to pass the driving test, and if you fail, then you have to apply again, and you have to wait, and you have to study and practice, and again you have the exam. And so human life is like that. with the human life, our test is coming at the end of life. At the end of life, we have to be able to fix our mind on Krishna. And Krishna points this out, Antakale chamameva, that we have to remember him. Anyone who quits his body remembering Krishna alone at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. So we have to practice this remembering Krishna. This is the important word, right? Smaranam, right? Remembrance of Krishna means we have to fix the mind on Krishna. We have to be pure. To be pure in mind, we have to be pure in action. And to be pure in action, we have to be pure in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And then we can fix our mind properly on Krishna. So Prabhupada stresses also the importance of chanting the holy name. We should constantly chant the holy name and keep the holy name on our tongue. That will help to fix us in remembrance of Lord Krishna. And definitely at the time of death, we want to be able to think of Krishna and to chant the holy name, or at least to hear the holy name. So that's answered. This question 8.2 is answered.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I have a question if you don't mind.
Okay.
Maharaj, like in previous slide, you were explaining regarding Adi Devam, and that we have also been Adi Devam, so that we also have Adi Deva body. Can you explain a bit detail in regard to this thing, that we also have this Adi Devam body?
Well, just like in the universal form, we say the Brahmanas are like the head, the Kshatriyas are the arms, the Vaishya are the belly, and the Sudra are the legs. And so we're like that within, either we're the head or the arms or the belly or the legs. And, everything is there, the different planets. The lower planets are the feet of the Lord, and the higher planets, that's up at the head of the Lord. Everything in the material creation is there within the universal form. The trees are like the hair on the body of the Lord, and the veins of the body of the Lord are like the rivers.
Okay. Thank you.
So we're there, right? We belong to some particular varna or ashram, and these different varnas and ashrams, they're represented by different parts of the universal body, of the body of the Lord. So in that sense, we have a place there within the Vishwarup, within the universal form.
Yes, Maharaj.
So a little exercise for you, we want you to discuss. Should we desire, like Kulashekar Maharaj, right? Do you all know Kulashekar Maharaj? Famous
Yes, Maharaj.
You know the verse which he chanted?
Maharaj, I don't know.
Tvadiya Padme Pankaj Anjarantam.
Krishna Tvadiya Pada Panjara Panjarantam Adhyaiva me Vishatu Manasaraja Hamsa Prana.
प्राण प्रयाण समय कपवात पिते कंठावरोधन विदुस्मरणं कुतस्ते.
Yes, right. So, should we desire, like Kulashekar, to die now? Whatever we do in life will be tested at the time of death. If death came today, would you say you're ready? Is suicide a means to attain Krishna? What happens to a devotee who commits suicide? Okay, how many people are here?
We have 18 participants, Maharaj.
All right, so 9 pairs.
Should I open the rooms?
Please do.
All devotees will get a request to join the breakout room, so please accept that request.
Krishna Tvadiya Padapankaja Panjarantam Madhyayavame Vishatu Manasara Jahamsa Prana. Prana Prana Kapaye Kapavata Pitaye Prana Prana Kapaye Kapavata Pitaye Kantavaro Dhanavido Smaranam Kutaste. Prana Kapaye Kapavata Pitaye Smaranam Kutaste. Amivashas Yasamba Amivashas Yasam Shaya Amivashas Yasham Shaya Amivashas Sam Amivashas Sam Shaya. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Maharaj.
I think we can close the rooms. This is not a very difficult exercise.
Okay, sure. I'll do that. It will be closed in 50 seconds.
Thank you.
All rooms have been closed, Maharaj. Everybody is back.
I'm sorry, what?
Everybody's back, Maharaj. I've
Oh,
closed
good.
it.
All right, thank you, thank you. All right, so I'd like to hear, are you all ready to die?
No, Maharaj.
Maharaj, we will never be ready. We will never be ready. So what I feel that we will never be ready to die. So this lifetime is a preparation for the exam. So exam is there. We know the question paper, but the date is not finalized. So we should prepare that for this movement, that we are always remembering Krishna and never forgetting Krishna. Like even when we are doing our duties, we should do like Ma Manusmar Yuddhacha, that we should remember Krishna and do our duties.
Okay, we're coming to that next verse.
Maharaj, I want to die. I
Oh,
want to
you-
go back. Yes, I want to die this time only. So, like King Kulashekara says, so now if I die, so I will take blessing of the Vaishnavas, that I may remember Krishna. And Krishna himself says that if you are not able to remember me at the time of the death, I personally will come if you whole life, if you spending serving me in lovingly, pure devotionally, then. So, and of course, suicide means attain Krishna, no. And what happens to a devotee who commits suicide? He becomes ghost, and whatever the lifespan Krishna has assigned in his or her life, that time he will be in a subtle body and will be wanting a place, like wanting to have a gross body, but he or she will not get. So this is not the body is a gift of Krishna. We should be engaged this in the service of Krishna.
oh,
And
okay.
if that came today, would you say ready? Yes, Maharaj, I want to.
Oh, you would say you're ready, right?
Yeah, I'm trying my best, but if the chance comes to go back, I will not say no, Maharaj.
We had Hare Krishna Maharaj, we had conflicting thoughts. Mataji and me were in one breakout room. So Mataji was of the thought ki yes, I want to go back. But I was of the thought that since we are not ready, it's better to serve whatever services we can offer to Krishna in whatever form we can. We should do that, because one can never be ready to go back. I mean, to die. I mean, King Kulasekar was an exalted devotee. He was on another level of devotion. So
Yeah,
that was my perspective.
He was a very, very advanced devotee, right?
Yeah. So I thought it's better to do services, better to engage yourself in Krishna's services, and everything else can be taken care of by Krishna, because he will do what he has planned for us or what we deserve ultimately according to our karma. So service is better.
Yes, we have to accept Krishna's plan, right?
Yes.
Yes, Maharaj.
And Maharaj, I was thinking that body has so much limitation, like diseases are there and so many things are there. So we cannot serve Krishna 24/7 from this body. So if we get opportunity to go back home, back to Godhead, why not? And one more thing, Maharaj, that till the time we are here, we are serving Krishna. And whatever we are doing for ultimate goal is to go back home, back to Godhead. But if I'm a Nitya Baddha, if a Nitya Baddha gets a chance to go back home, why will not I go? because I don't have that like Prahlad Maharaj who says that I will be here till that everybody goes to Dham. I am not eligible for that thing. So I think that till of my level, I should go.
Maharaj, but I wanted to ask Mataji that, like, how can we be so sure that if death comes, we are definitely going to Goloka? Like, well, we were feeling in what we discussed in our group that we cannot be so sure, seeing our current conditions, that we are ready to go back, and like the death will take us to Goloka only. So
Thank
we
you,
also felt
Mataji.
that.
Thank you, Mataji, for the question. In the beginning, I started with the blessings of senior Vaishnavas, my Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, and Acharyas. If they be so merciful, then I'll go. So this is the answer. Of course, how will I be eligible to go? But yes, I want, and by the blessings only it is possible. So I started with this point.
Okay, yes, thank you. Of course, it's up to Krishna. You could say the blessings of the devotees are important, yes. And ultimately it depends on Krishna also, what Krishna wants, where Krishna wants us. If he wants us here or if he wants us to go and leave. And we do say, you know, we live by the grace of Krishna and we die by the grace of Krishna. And so we have to be surrendered to see what is Krishna's plan. You know, I had a devotee friend, he got throat cancer, unfortunately, and he was suffering for some time and he tried to treat it, but he couldn't get any real benefit, any cure from it, and was getting worse. So he went to his spiritual master, and with the blessings of his spiritual master, decided he would fast to death. So he actually did that. He fasted for a few weeks, and after 2 weeks he left the body, and he left his body on the day of Janmashtami, on the holy day of Krishna's appearance. So he was a devotee, he'd been a devotee for many years, 30 years, right? Done nice service, steady service, very staunch, steady devotee. And he got this cancer and he couldn't do any service. You know, he couldn't really speak so well. Speaking was difficult for him. So his service really was preaching, but he couldn't do his service, and he was having to spit out blood from his throat, and it was very uncomfortable and painful, and no treatment, no cure was working. So with the blessing, with the approval of his spiritual master, he prepared himself for death, and he gave up his body. So could we say that, is that suicide? How do you consider that?
It's not suicide, Maharaj, because Guru is a representative of Krishna, and if we do anything by the instruction of Guru, so that is ascension. Krishna's sanctioning is there. So he took sanctioning of Krishna through Guru, and he did what his Guru Maharaj said. So this is not suicide, Maharaj.
Okay. So what happens to that devotee? You get a new body, right? And he can continue his devotional service from where he left off. He will go on with his devotional service. So sometimes it's like that. Krishna comes and gives us these bodies. We suffer different ways. We have to understand the body is not eternal. We have to give it up. We don't know exactly how we'll give up the body, but some way or other it will happen. The body is not eternal. And we have to see what is Krishna's plan, how long we have to go on in the body before we give it up. And we take another body and go on to serve Krishna. That's the main point, that we serve Krishna now in this life, the next life we'll go on and serve Krishna.
Maharaj, I have a question.
Yes?
Maharaj, in the example that you gave, like the devotee had his spiritual master at that point of time on the planet, but there can be circumstances when the devotees in such a situation, and the spiritual master might have already left for the Krishna's abode. So in such a situation, to whom to confirm with this thing?
Well, you have to have spiritual authorities. Like your Diksha Guru may have gone, but there should be others. There should be some kind of senior Vaishnavas who you can approach. Right? You should have spiritual mentors, Shiksha Gurus, and so on. God brothers of your spiritual master. Okay. Yeah.
Maharaj, one more question. It's in relation to one of Prabhupada's disciple, like, he was also having the same thing. He was having cancer, and ultimately he was since a lot of years he was on medicine only, and then he also decided this thing, that let me not take any medicines. I'm sure you can recall whom I am referring to. So,
maybe Jayananda?
No, Gunagrahi Maharaj. I'm sure you know about him.
Gunagrahi, okay.
So this is the first. Actually, when I heard, saw that thing personally. So it was the first, such case when I saw. So I'm interested in what's the difference, like, in such a situation that if Krishna has put someone in such a situation and then ultimately decided, no, let me give up this body. So ultimately it's by the mercy of Krishna only if some very senior devotee is put into such a condition.
Yes. So
so how to take this thing, Maharaj? Krishna has put us into this condition. Someone, not him or any. I'm talking about any general devotee. If someone is suffering in any such condition, it might be because Krishna has put into him such suffering because of some past bad deed or something like that. So in such a situation, if you're wanting to give a body,
well, sometimes Krishna arranges these things just to take away all the remaining karma, so that the devotee can go back to Godhead.
Okay.
Just like Vritasura. Vritasura was Chitraketu, he was cursed to become the Asura, Vritasura. And that's what happened to him. He got that Asura body, and it finished off all of his karma, and he could go back to Godhead.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Maharaj. Wonderful example.
But Maharaji, just a related question, that while the devotee that you discussed, that he decided to fast and then kind of leave his body, which is a big thing. Not everyone can do this, right? So some devotees might suffer for longer because they have that disease and they might kind of suffer for long but will not be able to fast. So how does then Krishna do a balance between, because they both are devotees, right?
Yes. Well, yes, it's up to every individual to decide for himself exactly how he's going to deal with the situation. The important thing is that we want to leave the body in consciousness of Krishna. Right? You want to be hearing the holy name, you want to somehow have the opportunity to remember Krishna. Now, how we die and what circumstances we die, we don't have a lot of control over that. Of course, you could say we could decide to fast, and but either way, that it's going to be difficult. There's going to be suffering there. There's going to be difficulties. But the important point is you want to be Krishna conscious. You want to fix the mind on Krishna. You have to hear the holy name. You have to somehow have the remembrance of Krishna.
Yeah, thank you.
It doesn't matter, really, whether you die quickly or you die slowly. But what's important is that we remember Krishna. we're here, for example, there was Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri was, of course, a very, very great devotee. And Lord Chaitanya greatly appreciated Madhavendra Puri. And Madhavendra Puri, when he was leaving the body, he was, in very poor health, and he was suffering a lot of difficulties. But he was helped by Ishvara Puri. Ishvara Puri was chanting the holy name to him and reminding him of Krishna. And so Ishvara Puri was his disciple, and he took care of his spiritual master at the time of death, and he helped him to leave his body. So that's a kind of reciprocation you want. We see in Srimad Bhagavatam also, Maharaj Parikshit prays that I simply want that you people will simply chant the holy name and be here at the time of my death to remind me of Krishna. And we saw Srila Prabhupada also, he was requesting devotees to come, please come and be with me, because Prabhupada knew he didn't have a long time left in the body, and he was preparing for leaving. So he was telling devotees, everybody come and be with me. He wanted devotees there to be with him, to chant the holy name, to help him remember Krishna. Okay?
Maharaj, this question, I have this one question, that should we have this desire of Kulashikar Maharaj, that better death come to me right now?
Well, yes, it's actually a very, very nice, pure desire that we want to chant the holy name, because now we're healthy, we can chant the holy name at this time. But we don't know at the time of death if we're going to be able to chant the holy name. We don't know at the time what our consciousness is going to be like. But now at this time, we're able to be conscious of Krishna and to feel some attachment for Krishna and for his holy name. But if I have to wait for my death to come naturally, I don't know what state I'll be in. And so it's actually, quite a reasonable desire of Kulashekar. It's certainly something which is generally appreciated by all the devotees everywhere. Kulashekar, of course, one of the Alwars, and he was actually a devotee of Lord Rama. But here he's talking Krishna Tvadiya Pada, and so it's very interesting. But he was generally known as a great devotee of Lord Ramachandra. So yeah, follow in the footsteps of the Mahajans. And as you said, Kulashekar, although he desired like that, he didn't actually die at that particular time. But he expressed that mood. He left it up to Krishna, that if Krishna, if you want to take me now, it's good because I can chant your holy name now. But it's up to Krishna. We surrender to Krishna. Okay, we go ahead.
Maharaj, just one point I want to just ask. So does it ultimately depend on the intent of the devotee who is seeking this prayer? Because there may be a devotee who may be desiring this just to save himself from the suffering of the current condition, and on the contrast, there may be a devotee who may be desiring this so that he can serve Krishna better, or he can serve Krishna immediately, that he may not be doing in his current position. Does it ultimately depend on why is he asking for this prayer, or in a blanket way this prayer?
Well, as it said, yes, we'll be tested at the time of death. If you're going to die, then Krishna he will test us. What is our actual motivation in wanting to leave the body? So everything is revealed at the time of death. So the particular mood, what is the motivation? Why you just simply want to get away from your responsibilities? You want to run away from the world? Do you think you can get away from suffering, get away from your karma so easily? Mm-hmm. So yes, it would be revealed. Okay, we got to go ahead. This is actually from chapter 7, but still related to the topic. In the transcendental association of Krishna consciousness, one can understand how the Supreme Lord is the governing principle of the material manifestation and even of the demigods. Gradually, by such transcendental association, one becomes convinced of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And at the time of death, such a Krishna-conscious person can never forget Krishna. Naturally, he is thus promoted to the planet of the Supreme Lord, Goloka Vrindavan. Jai. Okay, at the end of life, quits his body remembering me, attains me. Of this there is no doubt. This is a famous verse. Sadatad bhava bhavitaha, right? Sadatad bhava bhavitaha. Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam chajati anti kalevaram tam tam ivaiti konteya. Sadatad bhava bhavitaha. One whose thoughts during the course of one's life accumulate to influence one's thoughts at the moment of death. Right? Whatever we're thinking throughout the life, that's going to be what comes in the mind at the time of death. We cannot cheat Krishna. If we've spent our whole life thinking of Maya, then at the time of death, we won't be able to think of Krishna. So, we're not going to do this, we don't have time, but keep in mind the principle above. How can I apply it? How could we apply this principle? Maybe you could just give me some thoughts which immediately come to... How can we apply this principle that we will be very careful what we think in our mind so that it will influence our thoughts at the moment of death? What do we need to do, Maharajis?
Maharaj, we should plan our life like that. We should be 100% surrender unto the lotus feet of Krishna.
So how are you going
Krishna,
to do
and by
it?
instruction, by following the instruction of Guru Maharaj. So
yes,
what
you have to constantly hear and chant, right? You have to constantly hear and chant. Read Srimad Bhagavatam. You have to absorb your mind in thinking of Krishna. We have to train the mind so that we're always thinking of Krishna. We're always in Krishna consciousness. And that's why we have morning program. We have to do sadhana bhakti. We have to do these things. We have to keep our mind absorbed in thought of Krishna. Sadatad bhava bhavita. All right. Previous thoughts are the cause of thoughts at death. Someone read?
This is the ultimate goal of Krishna consciousness, that Antakale, at the time of death, at the end of life, Antakale, Chamam Iva, certainly Smaran, you will remember Krishna. Deity worship is especially meant for this purpose, so that you go on worshipping the deity of Radha and Krishna, and then you'll be able to think of Radha Krishna always within your heart. This practice is needed. Lecture BG 8.1, Geneva 74, text 7.
Geneva. Yeah. Prabhupada went to Geneva for a week. And they had a 1 week's program there. Prabhupada gave many lectures. So worshipping the deity of Radha and Krishna, you'll be able to think of Krishna always within your heart. So practice, we have to practice. Sadhana bhakti is practice. Practice remembering Krishna. Text number 7. Someone read?
Tasma sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudha cha mam arpita mano buddhir mam evashyasya asanshayah. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in a form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duties of fighting with your activities dedicated to me, and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. Bhagavad-Gita 8.7.
All right, so Krishna is telling Arjuna, don't give up your work. You have to do your work. But the first thing you have to do is to think of me. First you think of me in the form of Krishna. And at the same time, do your duty. Arjuna's duty was fighting. So this is the instruction which is given to all of us. Don't give up your work. We have to think of Krishna. The first thing is think of Krishna, and then we have to do our duty.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj, I have a question on this.
Oh, really? Yes?
Maharaj, so this verse, does it, how literally does it mean when Krishna says, you think of me in my form, and while doing that, do your duty? So, I mean, how does it practically happen for someone matured in Krishna consciousness? If you can help us visualize this, how does it literally happen?
Prabhupada explains how we think of Krishna. He said, you chant the holy name of Krishna. Now you may wonder, well, Krishna says, think of me in the form of Krishna. So think of Krishna in the form of the holy name. Remember, the holy name includes, within the holy name, there is also the form of Krishna, there are the qualities of Krishna, and there are the pastimes of Krishna. It's all there within the holy name. You just have to chant the holy name. Srila Prabhupada has given us everything. He's given us the holy name as the way to remember Krishna. And within the holy name, when we chant the holy name purely, without offenses, we will also realize the form of Krishna, the qualities of Krishna, the pastimes of Krishna. Understand?
Yes, Maharaj. Maharaj, but what usually happens is that when we are doing many services which are, let's say, not directly related to preaching, let's say we're doing managerial services or any other administrative services, sometimes it becomes difficult to remember Krishna in his direct way. Of course, we are absorbed in our service, we are doing it sincerely, but the way this verse literally translates, I'm not able to achieve that. So can you help me understand what is the right way of working on duties which may not be directly connected to Krishna, and you need to be absorbed also in those duties?
Well, you say not directly connected to Krishna. Can you give me an example what you mean?
So, yeah, I mean, not directly connected to Krishna, but not implying not those duties which help you remember Krishna easily. For example, if I'm preaching, I'm talking about Krishna, it's easy for me to remember Krishna. But let's say I'm doing some financial service or accounting service for Krishna, or let's say Arjuna here is fighting. So in these kind of activities, how do we enhance our remembrance of Krishna?
Yes. Well, we have to understand everything in relation to Krishna. That it's all Krishna, just like the finances. You're doing finances. Whose finances is it? It's Krishna's finances. It's Krishna's money. So it's important. We have to have the accounts. We have to have everything audited. It's Krishna's. Just like Arjuna, he's going to fight. And what does Krishna tell him? Become an instrument in my service. So we are instruments in the service of Krishna. That dedication should be there. That we have to train our mind in this manner. That I am the servant of Krishna. This is my service to Krishna. It's not separate from Krishna. We have to see it all in relation to Krishna. So going out preaching and distributing books is one thing, but some other people, it's taking care of the property and gardening and sweeping up and cleaning, even cleaning the toilets. We're doing it all for Krishna. This is the service which is given to me by the grace of Krishna. According to my karma, I've been given this duty. We see it as a service for the pleasure of Krishna. So we have to see Krishna in these different activities. So sadhana bhakti, that's why it's very important for us to hear the scriptures regularly, to understand all of these things, all these points, that everything which we're doing, we have to see them in relation to Krishna. The remembrance of Krishna has to come. We have to train the mind to remember Krishna and to see everything in relation to Krishna. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagya Uchite. So Krishna Sambandha, it's all in relation to Krishna. Don't see it as being anything separate. You know, even you're working in a job. You may be working in a multinational corporation in some kind of job. You can see it also in relation to Krishna. It's Krishna's energy. And it's Krishna's job. And Prabhupada writes that there are devotees who are working in these kind of jobs and maybe working offices, maybe working in the factory. He said because they're so dedicated to Krishna and they sacrifice the fruit of their work for the service of Krishna, he said these people are actually Mahatmas. They're actually great souls. All right?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we'll go ahead to the next verse here. Will someone read, please?
Previous thoughts are the cause of thoughts at death. So work is there, just like Arjuna. Arjuna is fighting. This is also Krishna consciousness. Ma manusmara yuddhacha. Krishna said, you chant if you remember me. At the same time, fight. He never said that simply fight or simply chant. Because in material world, that is not possible. Therefore, chanting must be there. But at the same time, you have to work how to continue this movement. The movement requires energy. Bhagavad-Gita 16.9, Hawaii, February 5, 1975.
Yeah, Hawaii. Because in Hawaii, you know, sometimes they have that problem. Devotees come there, they don't want to work. They just want to sit and chant, go on the beach and swim in the sea. The Prabhupada is constantly preaching to the devotees. You have to work, not just simply chanting. All right, someone read next verse, 8:8.
Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanyagabhina paramam purusham vidyam yati prarthanun chintayan. He who meditates on me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he, O Partha, is sure to reach me.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yes. So number 8, internal remembrance of Krishna. Mind constantly engaged in remembering me. Now, our minds are restless because of the anarthas. We have to train the mind. We have to gradually get the mind to be chaste, that it will become faithfully fixed in Krishna. And even when the mind wanders, the mind itself will come back, because the mind will feel nothing away from, it will not feel any pleasure being separate from Krishna. So in this matter, Prabhupada relates, if you think of Krishna 24 hours, then you'll become fully Krishna conscious and your life is successful. Don't allow anything. This requires little practice. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanyagamena. I should not allow my mind to go to think of any other subject than Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3, 14 and 15, Los Angeles, 1972. So Prabhupada is talking to the devotees, Abhyasa yoga, practice. You have to practice. Bring the mind back. Don't allow the mind to go. Don't allow the mind to dwell on material sense objects. Bring the mind back to Krishna. Yes, someone like to read for us here?
Maharaj, can I please ask a question on the slide?
Okay.
It's like when you say that if we don't allow anything else to come in our mind while we are doing our prescribed duties, whether it's our job or our children or our families. So while Krishna would be there most of the time, but then some of the other items also take their own space in the mind. So if I think about my children or my job or my family, how do I make sure that it is still Krishna in my mind? Because Krishna is there, but maybe not dominating the space at times, and the other matters are dominating the space.
Well, you have to train your mind to remember that your attachment for your children and family members is because Krishna is there in the heart. Because they are part of Krishna. Not just simply that they're part of you, but they're part of Krishna. It's because Krishna is there with them that you're attached to them and that you love them. And without Krishna, then you wouldn't have any affection for them. The person who we really love and who we're really attached to is Krishna. But we're thinking my family, my children, my husband or my wife, like that. We're thinking like that. But the person who we really love is Krishna. We love Krishna more than anyone else. And we love our wife or our children or our husband because Krishna's in the heart. And you take Krishna out of the heart, they're dead. They're not there anymore. You don't love the dead body. It's not the body you love. So we have to arm ourselves with knowledge. We need to hear. We need to train our mind to think properly according to the scriptures. One devotee used to say about chanting japa, he said, we're training our devotees to conquer the mind in the arena of japa. Just like gladiators will go and fight lions, So we're training our devotees to fight the most ferocious animal, our uncontrolled mind. And we conquer the mind in the arena of japa. If you do good japa, you'll conquer the mind. You'll come to Krishna consciousness. And you'll get free of that affection for the material body, and you'll start to think in terms of the soul. It's the soul, it's the spiritual particle which is important, not the body. All right, Maharaji?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yes, now someone, can you read this for me, Maharaji?
Internal remembrance of Krishna. Yoga practice is meditation on the super soul within. Similarly, by chanting Hare Krishna, one fixes his mind always on Supreme Lord. The mind is fickle, and therefore it is necessary to engage the mind by force to think of Krishna. One example often given is that of a caterpillar that thinks of becoming a butterfly and so is transformed into a butterfly in the same life. Similarly, if we constantly think of Krishna, it is certainly that at the end of our life, we shall have the same bodily constitution as Krishna. It's from Purport BG 8.8.
Oh, thank you. So Prabhupada said it's certain we will have the same bodily constitution as Krishna at the end of our life. But we have to practice. Okay, we'll go ahead. Okay, coming to the next section, Yoga Mishra Bhakti. Yes?
Yoga Mishra Bhakti 9 to 13. Sarva Dwarani means this system is called Pratyahara. In the technical language of yogic system, it is called Pratyahara. Pratyahara means just the opposite. Now my eyes are engaged in seeing worldly beauty. I have to retract from enjoying that beauty and must instead see inside the beauty. That is called Pratyahara. Similarly, I have to hear the Omkara sound from within. So all the senses are to be stopped in their external activities. That is the perfection of yoga, and concentrate the mind on Vishnu Murti. Mano Hridi Nirudhaya. Lecture BG 8.12, New York 66.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So Prabhupada is explaining roughly what is this Yoga Mishra Bhakti and how they meditate on the sound Om, but meditating on the sound within. So instead of our chanting externally, they do their chanting internally. We must see inside, see the beauty inside. I have to retract from enjoying the beauty around me and instead see the beauty inside. That is called Pratyahara. Right? In the Ashtanga Yoga, Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, then Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. So Pratyahara, the fifth step of Ashtanga Yoga, it's detaching the mind from the external and turning the mind within to see the beauty within. So all the senses are to be stopped in their external activities. So this is the system of Yoga Mishra Bhakti.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, can I ask
Maharaj,
something?
Okay, yeah.
Maharaj, till now you were saying to think of Krishna while chanting. This is okay, but how to understand practically? Like I have to hear the Omkara sound from the within. What is this, Maharaj?
Well, this is a different process from our chanting of Hare Krishna. This is the Yoga Mishra Bhakti. Yoga Mishra Bhakti. We're not practicing this system, but Krishna is giving it. He's describing other processes. You know, that some people may practice yoga in this way, detach themselves from the external and turn within.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Mm-hmm.
Maharaj, I had one question. As we are talking about Yoga Mishra Bhakti, so is Ma Manusmar Yuddhacha also Yoga Mishra Bhakti, because there we are doing our duties and as well as remembering Krishna. Like we are engaged externally in our duties as well, and at the same time we are remembering Krishna. So is that Yoga Mishra Bhakti?
No. Externally, well, the Yoga Mishra Bhakti, which is described here in the Bhagavad-Gita, is certainly described like this. Lord Krishna is explaining. Let's see, text number 9. Just let me find that text here. One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, and who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable and is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental beyond all this material nature. So in this way, the super soul is being described. And Prabhupada explains this is the process of thinking of the Supreme. How to think of the Supreme. So Krishna is giving us a process how we can think of the Supreme. This is this kind of yoga. How should we think of Krishna? We should think of him as one who knows everything, who's luminous like the sun. So many different qualities are given. So, because Lord Krishna had spoken about remembering him, so how to remember him? So this is being described now. Text number 9. How to remember Krishna. All right? How we should meditate him. He is the oldest. He is the controller, smaller than the smallest, maintainer of everything, It's not very difficult. He's always a person. At the same time, he is inconceivable. He's luminous like the sun. Krishna gives 10 ways to meditate upon him. So meditating upon Krishna, possessing these different qualities, we come to know him as a super soul. And when the yogi meditates upon the goal of the yoga, the yogi meditates on this way, and he can achieve the goal of the yoga practice. He can realize the super soul. So Krishna is describing bhakti, but it's mixed with the desires of the yogi, because it's mixed with the desire for liberation, to get free of birth and death. So it's not pure devotion. It's yoga mishra bhakti. There's devotion, but it's mixed with the desire for liberation. You understand, Prabhus?
Yes, Maharaj. Maharaj, just one more thing. Like here, although Krishna is talking about himself, but still he's pointing to a third person, that he who is the oldest, who is the controller. So he's not talking that you see me as the oldest, me as the controller. So how can we understand that Krishna is talking about a third person in these verses instead of talking about himself?
Well, yeah, sometimes Krishna does like that. Sometimes Krishna will talk like that he's talking about the Supreme Person. He doesn't say me, you should think of me. Because remember that this is a yogi meditating on something, meditating on the Lord within. So, like that, Krishna is not going to directly say, you should think of me, but he's describing the super soul. So certainly he would use the third person, one who knows everything. He is the oldest. Krishna didn't say, I'm the oldest. He said, he who is the oldest. Right? But later on, of course, Arjuna will come to realize that actually there's no difference between Krishna and the super soul. So Lord Krishna is describing the super soul, so he's using the third person. All right?
Yeah, Maharaj.
Okay, then discussing more about this chanting of Om. Yes, someone read?
Chanting Om is a transcendental but mechanical way of getting into trance. Persons who are unable to realize the transcendental personal form or name of the Lord because of imperfect senses are trained to the practice of self-realization by this mechanical process of regulating the breathing and simultaneously repeating Om within the mind. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.1.17.
Not everybody's able to fix their mind on the holy name and to see the deities. So some people, they're attracted to this kind of mechanical process. Chanting Om, controlling the breathing, right? So, like that, press the nose, breathe in, and like, so these things are very mechanical. But the idea is it controls the mind, regulates the mind. And this way, gradually, the concentration can come onto the Supreme Lord. Because repeating Om, you have to repeat Om within the mind. And here, from Prabhupada's lecture, Prabhupada's contrasting chanting Om and Hare Krishna, a lecture given in New York, 1966, on Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and Omkara, there is no difference. So far, the transcendental sound vibration is concerned. but the objective is different. By Omkara, one attains impersonal existence in the Brahmajyoti. And by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, one attains the spiritual body, and he's situated in the spiritual planets. Right? Chanting Hare Krishna will take you to the spiritual planets. When you chant Om, you simply go to Brahmajyoti. Understand? Big difference.
Yes, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I have a question if you don't mind.
All right.
Maharaj, in the 12th canto, chapter 6, verse number 39, it's written that the Om, it represents Krishna in all the three features: Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Paramatma feature, and the impersonal Brahman. I mean, the all-pervading impersonal Brahman. And similarly, we find in the Adi Lila also in the 7th chapter that we hear that Omkar, it is the representation of Krishna's form, Krishna's name, Krishna's pastimes. So from this appears that by reciting Om also we can attain Krishna, because Om represents Krishna in all the three features, and it also represents the personality of Lord Krishna. So I mean, how come from Om we don't attain Krishna and only attain the impersonal God? Although Om does refer to the personal form of Krishna also.
Because generally the people who chant Om, they have that impersonal conception. They're not able to chant Hare Krishna. They're not able to conceive of the Lord as a person. They're simply attached to the impersonal feature. The people who practice the yoga, those who are meditating on Om, they're simply attached to that impersonal feature. And they have no attraction for the form of the Lord. They have no taste for the chanting of His holy name. They simply think of Om.
So it means it's basically the difference of objective. So you mean if someone wants to achieve the Krishna lok, then by chanting Om also he can achieve Krishna lok if he has the desire to achieve Krishna lok. So in that sense, there would be no difference whether person is chanting Om or Hare Krishna Mahamantra if the end goal is Krishna lok, is it?
Yes, I would say yes, but again, somebody actually has a desire to go to Golok and to go to Krishna, he's not going to be much attracted to Om. He won't have that same attraction to Om. He can respect it, but he won't have much taste for it anymore, because he's so drawn, he's so much filled with love for Krishna, and he's so much absorbed in thinking about going to be with Krishna. He just sees Om as something separate from Krishna.
But why is that, Maharaj? Because like if we know that in scriptures it is mentioned that Om represents Krishna's form, Krishna's name, Krishna's qualities, then why would a soul, I mean a living entity who is aiming for the perfection of going to Krishna lok,
because Krishna doesn't give much interest to those people who chant Om. He doesn't have a lot of concern for that. Krishna is more attracted to the people who chant His holy name. It's what gives pleasure to Krishna, which is important. And Krishna takes pleasure when the devotees chant His holy name. Naham tishtani vaitukunte yogi namridayeshu va tatratishtani narada yatra gayanti mad bhakta. Krishna says He's attracted to His devotees chanting the holy name. He doesn't say He's attracted to people who meditate on Om. The devotion for people who chant Om is not going to be as great as the devotion of the person who's chanting the holy name.
also, Maharaj? And Maharaj, like we heard that Golok Hera Premadam Harinam Sankirtan. So this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, this is chanting in the Golok Vrindavan also?
Yeah.
Golok Vrindavan they also?
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
The gopis are all chanting the holy name. The gopis do kirtan.
Oh, so they do Hare Krishna Kirtan. Okay.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right. Entering the Supreme. The devotee of Krishna, the devotees of Krishna enter the Krishna planet, Goloka Vrindavan. For the personalists, there are also innumerable other planets known as Vaikuntha planets in the spiritual sky, whereas the impersonalists remain in the Brahmajyoti. Bhagavad-Gita, chapter 8, verse 13, purport. Ananya Bhakti, pure devotional service, right? We've been hearing about...
Just can I ask one quick question?
All right.
Maharaj, this 8.13 verse, the translation says that after being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, and further it says, if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of God and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets. So, so that seems like contrasting, because we are saying that person with Yog Mishra Bhakti will not attain one of the spiritual planets, but this verse, the translation seemed to imply that he's going to reach to spiritual planets. Can you please explain that?
Translation said he will certainly reach the spiritual planets, right? Well, if he thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then yes, he will reach the spiritual planets. It's a question of what he thinks at the time of death, right? That's the point. Anta kale chamami vas maran mukpa kalevaram. If you think of Krishna, then you'll go to be with Krishna. But if you simply think of the energy of Krishna, or you simply think of the impersonal features of Krishna, then you simply go to the Brahmajyoti. So there's quality in the chanting of Om. Just as there's quality in the chanting of the holy name, there's also qualities in the chanting of Om. So you're situated in yoga practice, vibrate the sacred syllable Om, and then think of the personality of Godhead. So it's not just think Om, but you have to think of the personality of Godhead. Then you reach the spirit.
So Maharaj, in that case, that becomes equivalent to Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
Yes. Yes. Prabhupada said there's no difference in chanting Om, chanting Hare Krishna. There's no difference. But you know, you can, when you study it more closely, you see there are some differences. Yeah, the Om is chanted in the mind, and the Om, people generally have a lot of impersonalist ideas about it. They're simply thinking Om, Om. You know, Allen Ginsberg, you know, he liked to chant Om.
So Maharaj, can we still say that the one who is chanting Omkara and thinking of Krishna, will he be qualified to go to Golok Vrindavan, or he will reach to one of the other Vaikuntha planets?
Well, it might be difficult to go to Goloka Vrindavan because you have the special qualifications to go to Goloka Vrindavan, right? We know you have to be actually in the mood of Vrindavan there. So if somebody's simply chanting Om, unlikely they're going to go to Goloka Vrindavan. You know, what are they going to do there? They're going to take care of the cows. You know, they're yogis and they're chanting Om. You get people like the four Kumaras. The four Kumaras, they're in Tapaloka, away up in the top of the universe, just below Brahmaloka is Tapaloka. The four Kumaras reside there. You know, and they do their meditation there, they're chanting Om there. They're remembering the Lord there. They don't usually go into Goloka Vrindavan. Because Goloka Vrindavan, everyone's a cowherd boy. They're all with the cows and taking care of the cows and go in the forests every day. You know, the yogis, it's kind of difficult for them to do that stuff. To be with the cow and to be with Krishna in the forest and play with Krishna. And, you know, this is just not what the yogis are trained up to do. Right?
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
What do the yogis do? Prabhupada writes, having explained the practices of Yoga Mishra Bhakti, or how one attached to yoga, one who is attached to yoga and liberation can remember him. Then Krishna next describes pure devotional service. So they're thinking of yoga, but they're also thinking of liberation. They're just thinking to get out of the material world. It's not that they're thinking of Goloka Vrindavan, to be with Krishna and to be with the cows and Krishna's flute and everything. You know, that's only for the pure devotees. There's those people who are really attached to Krishna. Now, they may have some love for the Lord, but who is the Lord? Who are they meditate? They meditate on the Lord. It's Om. For them, it's Om, which is beautiful. Right? It's a very different mood. Can you understand?
Yes, Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
I mean, you see these yogis, you know, they don't spend their time much to go and see the deities of Radha and Krishna, you know. They'll sit in their cave, they go somewhere, they just sit and chant Om, Om. And that's their meditation. That's their goal. Liberation. So, better than Yoga Mishra Bhakti is Ananya Bhakti, pure devotional service, described in text 14. Someone read?
Ananya chetaha satatam yo mam smriti nityashaha tasyaham sulabha partha nitya yuktasya yoginaha satatam, always, nityasaha, regularly. For one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Pritha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. Bhagavad-Gita 8.14.
Nitya yuktasya yogina. Yes, regularly engaged in devotional service. So this is Ananya Bhakti, right? Without deviation, no deviation of the mind, constantly remembering Krishna. So Krishna says, I'm easy to obtain. Sulabha, tashyaham sulabha part. I'm easy to obtain. So this is very important for us. Of course, qualification is there without deviation of the mind. So we have to train the mind, make the mind submissive. You know, there's different levels of bhakti. Gradually we come to that level. So this verse is describing this high level of bhakti without any mixture of gyan or karma or hatha. It's simply bhakti, pure bhakti yoga, ananya cheta. A devotee wants nothing but Krishna. Pure devotee does not desire to go to the heavenly planets, and he doesn't look for oneness with the Supreme. He's not looking for liberation from the material world. He doesn't want anything, right? He just simply wants devotional service. He has no material desires. But all the other yogis, they all have their material desires. So Krishna is very pleased when he sees this kind of attitude. So that's why it mentions he becomes sulabha, easy to obtain, even if one is not on that platform, but only has a desire to reach it, then Krishna will help that devotee. Krishna will remove the obstacles on the path. Okay, I'm easy to obtain. I am the cause of or doer of his attainment. I am the cause or doer of his attainment. Krishna helps the devotee to come to that stage. Yes, Prabhupada's purport here, someone read.
The special qualification of the pure devotee is that he is always thinking of Krishna without deviation and without considering the time or place. There should be no impediments. He should be able to carry out his service anywhere and at any time. Some say that a devotee should remain in holy places like Vrindavana or some holy town where the Lord lived. But a pure devotee can live anywhere and create the atmosphere of Vrindavana by his devotional service. Bhagavad-Gita 8.4.
Okay, Prabhupada speaking about pure devotees can live anywhere. It's a very nice point. We should understand. We don't have to just sit in the holy dham. We can go anywhere and be Krishna conscious. And Prabhupada teaches us, he taught us by his example. Carry out service anywhere. The devotee was saying, Prabhupada, I just want to stay in Vrindavan. Prabhupada said, your job is to give Vrindavan to others. He didn't want devotees to sit around Vrindavan. He wanted them to go out and preach. So, what features of Srila Prabhupada's life demonstrated this? Yes?
His preaching mood, Maharaj.
Yes, his preaching mood, yes.
Maharaj, the courage by which he left Vrindavan at the age of 70 and went to the West single-handedly. That too in a cargo ship.
Yes, right. He left Vrindavan. He'd already got his own place in Vrindavan, but he left it all to go to the West.
And as Srila Prabhupada said that I never left Vrindavan because the Vrindavan resides in his heart.
Yes, he said, I'm always in Vrindavan. Just like Advaita, Lord Chaitanya said, I wanted to go to Vrindavan. But Advaita Acharya said to Lord Chaitanya, he said, wherever you are, that is Vrindavan. Because you carry the Lord in your heart. So if we carry Krishna in our heart, certainly we'll make every place a holy place. Prabhupada says, Satatam means anywhere and any time. Just like my residence is at Vrindavan, that is the place of Krishna. So now I'm in America, in your country, but that does not mean that I'm out of Vrindavan. Because if I think of Krishna always, so it is as good I am in India, in Vrindavan. From Bhagavad-Gita 8, verses 12 and 13, given in New York, 1966. Yes, someone like to read the next verse, next slide?
That is our Krishna conscious life. Krishna once said, I must do it. I will not do anything for me. That is Vrindavan. All the inhabitants of Vrindavana, they are trying to fulfill Krishna's desire. The cowherd boys, the calves, the cows, the trees, the flowers, the water, the gopis, the elderly inhabitants, Mother Yashoda, Nanda, they are all engaged in fulfilling Krishna's desire. That is Vrindavan. So you can turn this material world into Vrindavana, provided you agree to fulfill the desires of Krishna. That is Vrindavan. Bhagavad-Gita 16.4. Hawaii, January 30, 1975.
So that's the idea. Turn the material world into Vrindavan. Fulfill the desires of Krishna. All right, some little exercise for you.
Maharaj, can I ask a question before we get to the exam?
Okay.
Maharaj, there's something interesting written in the purport of 8.14. If I can just draw you to the second and third sentence, it says that previous verses have mentioned 4 different kinds of devotees: the distressed, the inquisitive, those who seek material gain, and the speculative philosophers. And different processes of liberation have also been described: Karam Yoga, Gyani Yoga, and Hatha Yoga. So I'm just trying to connect what Prabhupada has written here with the verses before the 14th verse. If you can help us connect these sentences with the verses below, the verses before 14th verse.
So, and this is what Prabhupada's purport of the 8th verse?
14th. Maharaj, the purport of 14th verse of 8th chapter, 1/4, 14.
Okay, wait, let me find it.
And it's the second sentence and the third sentence.
Oh.
It starts with previous verses have mentioned 4 different kinds of devotees.
Yes, 4 different kinds of devotees. Yeah, 4 different kinds of devotees, yeah. And then? So
It seemed to imply that the previous verses have talked about somewhere these 4 kinds of devotees, and also talked about Karam Yoga and Gyan Yoga and Hatha Yoga. Hatha Yoga we just saw, but I'm just trying to connect which verse talked about Karam Yoga or Gyan Yoga, or talked about these 4 kinds of devotees.
Well, the 4 kinds of devotees, that was mentioned in the 7th chapter.
Okay, so this is not about this chapter, he's referring to the last chapter.
Yeah, right, yeah. Previous verses, it was the 7th chapter. We heard about 4 different kinds of devotees. The distressed, the inquisitive, the seek material, right. Different processes of liberation have also been described. Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Hatha Yoga, right. That was in, you could say, first 6 chapters. The principles of these yoga have some bhakti added, right?
Okay, I was just confused whether he's talking about this very chapter. So you're saying this is all about the previous chapters.
Yeah. What has been spoken before, not necessarily this chapter, but earlier in the Bhagavad-Gita.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj. This explains. Thank you so much.
Okay, so and we're talking about mood and atmosphere because Prabhupada was describing everywhere we can have Vrindavan atmosphere. So write down a few words which you feel best describe the ideal congregation in terms of the mood and atmosphere. You know, you go to sometimes temples, you go to a temple and you just feel, oh no, I don't like the mood, or I don't like this atmosphere. You know, sometimes there were some people in Delhi, they were telling me they were going to the big temple and they said, oh, there's just so many people. We go to this smaller temple and there's only, you know, it's more intimate and we can feel more part of the temple. And you know, so that's one thing, you know, mood and atmosphere. Sometimes, you know, the temple is just too big and then you're just, you know, you don't have any real identity there. You're just part of the mass. So in some ways, sometimes the atmosphere can be harmed just by so much number, just by mass of people, that it becomes almost impersonal in some ways. And the mood is not the same, you know, sometimes the mood in a smaller temple with the deity, you can see the deities closely. Some people, I was here during the Nrsimha Chaturdasi and there was a lot of people here at the temple, and I was over here at Mayapur Institute and we have a We have a kutir where we have our Mongol Aarti, and we sit and chant japa there in the kutir. And so some people, they came down from the temple and they said, oh, it's so much better here. So you go to the temple, it's packed, you know, and pushing and shoving. You can hardly get a place to sit. There's so many people. They said they enjoyed it better to come in the kutir. And so, how do you feel, congregation, in terms of the mood and atmosphere? Would you like to share some comments with me?
Maharaj, what I feel that the relationship amongst the devotees is most important. Like, if the relationship is good, that it is based on Krishna consciousness, based on service, as well as taking care of each other. So that is very healthy, and that will help in the congregation to prosper. That if they are respecting and having good relations amongst each other, like having 6 kinds of loving dealings amongst each other.
Yeah, but what if you have, like, you know, you were going to have the temple of the Vedic planetarium, you're going to have 10,000 people there in the temple, you know, are you going to have good relationships there?
What I feel that we cannot have good relationship with everyone, but we should have good relationships with few, with those whom we can share our heart. Like, we cannot share our heart with everyone, but there will be some with whom we should try to develop that kind of relationship.
So in other words, you have to have smaller private programs.
It means like both are important. Like, big programs are also important, and then private also have their own importance.
Okay. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, I feel like that if we, by just reading Bhagavad-Gita, we try to imbibe the mood of Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada mood is of preaching. And we are making big temples, like you said, TOVP. So if thousands of people are coming, it's actually what Srila Prabhupada wanted, and we can see now here. So it is really good. So if we want to preach and so many people are coming into visiting even the temples, then we have a more opportunity to teach them, to have more Nam Hatta offices, to give them holy name, to tell them that how chanting in the beginning, even that how means like preaching mood, if it is there, that is that then our atmosphere, everything will be like appropriate for us also.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, it's true. I appreciate, and you know, here in Mayapur, I remember previously, at least before the COVID, the custom was after Mongol Aarti, a devotee will appear and he will offer everyone japa beads. And so there are many visitors who come from Mongol Aarti, and people are all invited to take a set of japa beads and to sit and chant. And he will guide with them, he will talk to them, and he will encourage them, tell them how to chant, and they'll sit and they'll chant one round. It's a very nice program, and many people certainly benefit from that program. The one devotee that just comes forward and they have the arrangement and give everybody beads, and they get them to sit down, and after Mongol Aarti, they all sit and chant. So they train them to chant japa. So that kind of activity is important there. Certainly a big temple, there'll be a lot of people, and many people will be visitors. So you want to try to give them the holy name. All right? Any other points? Anything?
Maharaj, the relationship between the devotees should be cordial in the temple congregation. And that is what I feel. It should be cooperative and respectful as well.
Yes. It should be a friendly atmosphere. Right? It certainly should be. It should be cordial. We should be friends. We should be, and people can pick up on the mood. People can feel, you know, where's the mood. Sometimes you go to the temple and you feel you're not welcome, you know. Oh, why have you come here? You know, they don't know the temple's not open yet. Come back in 2 hours, you know. So, yeah, there should be a cordial atmosphere. Thank you, Manaji. Very nice and important. So, loving relationships between the devotees, it's important. Nice mood. Definitely, congregation can feel it. And you know, when you have the crowds, of course, you have to have security guards, and security guards are pushing and shoving. What can you do to improve the mood and atmosphere of your congregation? Well, have nice istagostis and have nice festivals and loving exchanges with the devotees. The leaders should be intimate with the devotees. They should be aware of what's going on in the temple, and they should know the devotees. There should be personal relationships as much as possible. Jayapataka Swami was telling me that in the past he used to know everybody staying here in Mayapur, but now there's like about 7,000 people staying here. It's just impossible to know so many people. I think that the most number of people you can actually know and have a relationship with, they say it's about 150. Anything more than that, then it's really difficult.
And Maharaji, is there a space for constructive challenge in spiritual world? I always wonder, because everyone is cordial and everything is based on shastras, so hardly there might be any constructive challenge. But is there a space in the spiritual world or in ISKCON generally?
Space in the sense that...
Or is there an appetite for constructive challenge?
Constructive challenge. Well, I hope so. Certainly, Prabhupada encouraged that kind of mood. There will be challenges, certainly. There will always be challenges in our attempts to cultivate Krishna consciousness or to propagate Krishna consciousness. There's always going to be challenges. We can see the challenge right now with the COVID, the pandemic situation. That's a great challenge. We're challenged, the whole world is challenged. Certainly our preaching is challenged. And we have to be able to...
Yeah, I also meant difference of opinions, if any. So constructive challenge is the positive way of looking at if there are difference in opinions, or everyone talks the same language is what
we do see differences of opinion even in the analysis of the scriptures. Now sometimes, you know, Jiva Goswami will say one thing and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur may say another. So differences in the opinions of the acharyas may be there, and it's not a problem.
Okay.
You know, we just understand that these different pure devotees, they see the things in different ways. But it's not that one is right and one is wrong. And we were talking the other evening, right? How did we get here? You know, some people say we fell from the spiritual world, and other people say, no, nothing ever falls from the spiritual world. So there are some, you know, some challenges there, you know, you know, who's right? Different people, you know, they will have their opinions and they have their philosophy and they have their arguments to support their philosophy.
Okay.
So there are challenges, there are, it's not all so cut and dry that everything is so clear. Although we do, of course, depend a lot on the Goswamis, because the Goswamis of Vrindavan, they studied all the scriptures, you know, Nana Shastra Vicharinai Kanapano Saddharma Samstapako, with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles. They studied all of the different scriptures. So Prabhupada would sometimes say, we don't have to do any more research. The research is all already done for us by the Goswamis. But, of course, there is still a lot of research to be done. Like I said, the fall of the soul. One of my devotee godbrothers, he said that if Prabhupada was to come now, I have so many questions for him. And he's a very senior devotee in the movement, but he says like that. He said, Prabhupada would come now, I have so many more questions I could ask him. All right. So any ideas how to improve the mood and atmosphere of your congregation? Or are you satisfied with it?
Maharaj, I think like it can be improved by focusing more on Srila Prabhupada's books, reading of Srila Prabhupada's books, and hearing Srila Prabhupada's.
Yes, very nice, right. Yes, we need to encourage reading Prabhupada's books. It's very good. And that's certainly helping, I think, doing, having things like Bhakti Sastri courses and even the ISKCON Disciple course. These things are all very good. We're helping, it's arranging more education for the devotees. In Prabhupada's time, the whole thing was so new, we didn't get really much education. Whatever education we got really wasn't that much, Being Prabhupada would give us initiation after a few months being a devotee, but we really didn't know very much. But the book, and even of course in the beginning, we didn't have even many books. There were not many books. When I joined the Bhagavad-Gita, we had the very abridged Bhagavad-Gita, and we had Prabhupada's read Bhagavatam. Well, we had also Ishopanishad, Nectar of Devotion, but not many copies. They were rare. So we didn't get a lot of education. But over the years, that's improved a lot. You can see now. But we don't want to make it so mechanical. It's got to be, we do need the atmosphere, to create a nice atmosphere, a caring mood, a loving mood, that we value everyone, we value everyone's contribution, we value everyone's presence. These things are important. Caring, that we really care. We want to be known as a caring society. That's important. If somebody doesn't come, what happened? Why that Prabhu? They didn't come. Oh, I wonder, are they okay? Give them a call. Or go and see them. Bring them some prasadam. There's a lot of things to be done to take care of a congregation. We want to create a nice congregation. You give love, you get more love. The more you give, the more you get. Okay, Prabhupada said, your love for me will be shown by how much you cooperate to keep this institution together after I am gone. Okay, another exercise for you. Very simple exercise. Verses 15 to 19 describe the material world. We want you to give us the main features of the material world. And verses 20 to 22 describe the spiritual world. Give the nature, give reference in Sanskrit. All right? Can you do this? 5 minutes. Very simple. How many people are here? 18 still?
15, Maharaj.
Huh?
15.
We lost some people, huh? Okay, how will we do it? 15, we can have 5 groups of 3.
Yes, Maharaj. devotees will get a request to join the room. So please join your breakout room.
I haven't received the proper.
Okay, Maraji?
Yes, I'll close the room.
Yes, can you close the room? I think so.
They'll be back in a minute. Everybody's back, Maharaj.
Oh, good. All right, so let's hear about the material world first of all. Could we have some references? What's the nature of the material world?
Maharaj, in 15th verse, it is mentioned that material world is Dukhalyam and Ashashritam. That it is a place of misery and everything is temporary in this material world. You can see that even we might become doctor in this world, or we can become an engineer. But once we die, then when we come back and take birth again we have to go through the like primary education and everything. So everything is temporary, and Dukhalayam is like here we are having like it is a place of misery.
Okay. Anything in text 16?
Maharaj, like here in that 16, it was mentioned that Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravartino Arjuna. So that from Brahma to Ant, everyone is under this cycle of birth and death. So we might get promoted to heaven, Sapaloka, Janaloka, or Brahmaloka, but again we have to come back to this world. And everyone in this material world, like the entire 8.4 million species are under this cycle of birth and death. So no one is spared from that. That is the nature of material world.
Okay, any other points to add to that, anyone?
March, not in the verse 16, but in the verse 18, it is told that at the beginning of the Brahma states, it's all in the, Brahma always has to recreate the creation, and then we become manifested. But at the end of the Brahma state or during the night, whole of this, there is annihilation in all of the world. It becomes unmanifested, and so does we all living entities. So for the whole duration of Brahma's night, which I guess is around 432 crore years, we all are in an unmanifested state, inert state. Practically, we are not existing in a way for those time.
Okay, that's text 18.
Yes, Maharaj.
Anything in text 16? Or 17?
Maharaj, even just addition to a little bit to what Prabhuji has said, that even if you become a Brahma, the first living entity or an insignificant ant, you will return, you will stay in here in the material world, and if you become a Brahma, then even you must return to this earth. So this is the nature of material world.
Mas, one more thing I just want to say here, like in text 17, it is seen like the material world universe is not, it get destructed after a certain period of time. It is there is some duration, just like we have our age. Similarly, the material world also has some age. Like after some time, it gets destroyed and again it gets formed. So it is not eternal, unlike spiritual world. Ever exists, it's not ever exists.
Also, Maharaj, there is a contrast in the 16th verse number 16 between the spiritual world and the material world. That, like in 16th verse, it is told that in the material world, from the highest to the lowest planet, there is only miseries where birth and death takes place. But Krishna says that this cycle of birth and death doesn't happen in the spiritual world. So Krishna says if one takes to the if one attains my spiritual abode, he need not take again birth in this material world, and he is freed from the cycle of birth and death. So this is a bit this is totally in contrast with the material world.
All right, thank you, Prabhu. Yes.
And Maharaj, one more thing, that this is why we are always a Nitya Baddha, that we are roaming in the all 14 planets.
Yeah, we are the eternally conditioned souls. So this is our home, right? We belong here.
No, Maharaj.
Okay. Okay, let's go on to the spiritual world then, number 20.
It is said in the number 20, like it is transcendental, like it is beyond, means like it is beyond this material nature. It is eternal, means it is ever existing. It is never ending. Like when the world, other part of the 3/4 part of the material world gets annihilated after it finishes duration, but the spiritual world doesn't do so.
Okay.
Then also, like one thing we learn, that whenever after one reaches the spiritual world, he never comes back to this material world. Like he never returns to the abode of Krishna. Once he reaches it, he just goes there and don't come back.
Okay.
The last thing, it is the only qualification, or you can see like only the ticket or the way by which we can reach the spiritual world is unalloyed devotion. And by unalloyed devotion, we can reach to the spiritual world where Krishna is present personally, and he is there, like everything is there, like he's all pervading, and everything is within him. The spiritual world.
Okay. Yes.
That's it.
Any other points?
Maharaj,
Yes, Maharaj.
Prabhupada is quoting 3 verses from Brahma Samhita in 21 and 22 verse, like regarding the nature of spiritual world. That one is the Chintamani Prakara Sadmasu Kalparisha, that spiritual world is Chintamani Dham, and it is full of desire trees, and like there are Surbi cows.
Okay.
And like he's being served by thousands of goddess of fortune. And also he's Prabhupada is telling about Lord Krishna, that Venum Pwanvantam Arvindalaya Taksham, about the Lord, that he's playing flute, and the color of his body and like his eyes are like Arvindalaya Taksham, like lotus petals. So these 2 verses of Brahma Samhita are there in 21st verse, and in 22nd verse Prabhupada is quoting Anand Chinmay Raspati Bhavit Sabirya, that the supreme abode, like spiritual world, is full of eternal bliss. It has Anand. It is like there we are having supreme bliss basically.
Okay, yes, good. Yes, very good, Prabhu. Thank you. All right, we'll move ahead. Here you can see contrasting some main points from the material and spiritual world. I think you got all of these points, right? We'll go ahead. Material world, dukhala yamashasvatam and budva praliyate, repeatedly created and destroyed, but the spiritual world is navinashyati, never annihilated, avyakto shara, it's unmanifested, infallible, and it's a param gatim, ultimate destination. So why did Krishna create it like this? Why did Krishna create the material world, such a miserable place, made it so horrible? Should we?
Because we wanted, or the humans wanted this, right? So
should we try to fix it, or we just leave it like this?
No, we should try to fix it to reach the ultimate objective of humankind, which is go back to the Krishna Loka, if I could say that. But I think this is what we wanted, and hence he created, is what I read earlier.
But what was that?
So I said that it is what Krishna says, that he created this material world because we wanted this
for
material
our desires, yeah, right. To satisfy our desires, right?
Right.
So we should try to fix this world, right? We should try to make it Krishna conscious, right?
Yes.
In this way, this world can become the spiritual world, if we use everything in Krishna consciousness. So to what extent should a hospital meaning, the material world, be equipped, furnished, and decorated?
Maharaj, Krishna created this material world because we were having unwanted material desires, not to be with Krishna. So he made like this, that okay, you go, you suffer, then you repent, and then come back to me. Then go and see that how life is without me. This is Dukhalayam, suffer there, and ultimately get your get out of your material desires, get your desires purified, just have Krishna conscious desires, and come back to me. This material world is just for that we prepare ourselves, that we go back to Krishna.
Okay, yes, good. And to what extent should we furnish and decorate and equip? Well, we should try to keep it, we shouldn't want to make it too elaborate, but at the same time for Krishna, a hospital, maybe we could think of the temple like a hospital. It's a place where we actually get back our good health. So temple should be properly decorated and equipped and furnished for whatever is necessary for preaching Krishna consciousness. We don't need a lot. Furnishing, most of us can sit on the floor. Elderly people, maybe we have some chairs for them. Decorated, some decoration, mainly decorations on the altar, around the deities. And equipment, we need some things. We need to have like loudspeakers, microphones, instruments, these things, books, or Zoom, Wi-Fi. Solution to all problems. One should learn Srimad-Bhagavatam and make an all-round solution to all problems pertaining to social, political, or religious matters. Srimad Bhagavatam 125 purport. Yes, someone can read?
Ananya Bhakta attains the Lord. Easy method of bhakti for attaining the Lord. Bhaktya labhyastav ananya. To enter Krishna's supreme abode or the innumerable Vaikuntha's planet is possible only by bhakti, devotional service. as clearly indicated here by the word bhaktya. No other process can help one attain that supreme abode. Bhagavad-Gita 8.2 purport.
822.
Oh, yes, 8.22 purport.
Okay, quiz. Who Lord is easily attained by? Oh, forgive the English.
Ananya Bhaktas.
Huh? Lord is easily attained by?
Ananya Bhakti.
Ananya Bhakta.
Yes, Ananya Bhakti Yoga. Right. You can see the answer here. Gyani is constantly engaged in remembering Lord. Is sure to reach the Lord. Ananya Cheta Satatam Yomam Smariti Nisya. One who always remembers without deviation. Bhaktya attainment by unalloyed devotion. What is the result of attaining the Lord?
One will not never come back to this material world.
Right, never return. Right, very good. Never takes birth again. Good. How Karmis, Gyanis, and devotees depart from this world. Text 24 describes Jnana Yogi and how he attains the impersonal Brahmajyoti. Text 25 describes the Karmakandi and how he attains the moon, but then returns to earth. And text 27 describes the devotee who can leave at any time. All right? You have some are leaving in the daytime, and the daytime they leave, they don't come back. And they leave at night, they come back. But you should understand that's only for these special yogis. It's not for everyone. Sometimes people think an ordinary karmi dies. If he dies in the daytime, he doesn't come back. No, he will come back. He's a karmi. It depends on consciousness, right? So, how karmis, gyanis, and devotees depart from this world. Something we all have to think about. But someone can read this for me?
Krishna is here advising Arjuna that he should not be disturbed by the different paths the soul can take while leaving the material world. A devotee of the Supreme Lord should not worry whether he will depart by arrangement or by accident. The devotee should be firmly established in Krishna consciousness and chant Hare Krishna. He should know that concern over either of these two paths is troublesome. The best way to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness is to be always dovetailed in his service. And this will make one's path to the spiritual kingdom safe, certain, and direct. Devotee is not disturbed by these descriptions because he knows that his passage to the supreme abode is guaranteed by devotional service. Bhagavad-Gita 8.27 purport.
Thank you, Prabhu. And then Krishna rescues his devotees. Someone like to read?
The general situation is that the souls enlightened with transcendental knowledge are carried to the spiritual world by the Ati-Vahadika demigods. However, those Nirpeksha devotees who are specially distressed in separation from the Lord are carried there by the Supreme Lord himself. For the Lord becomes impatient and cannot tolerate any delay in bringing them back to him. This is a special situation. Govind Bhashya, chapter 4, Pada 3, Adhikarna 9.
Okay, so special quotes. In the Vara Purana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead says, "My devotees need not follow the path beginning in light. Riding on Garuda's shoulders, I personally take them to my supreme abode." Supreme abode. So, glorification by bhakti. 8.3, at once attains my nature, of this there is no doubt. 8.7, will attain me without doubt. 8.8, he is sure to reach me. 8.24, I am easy to obtain. No, 8.14, 8.22, attained by unalloyed devotion. All right, so we covered these different points today, analyzed and found answers to 8 questions by Arjuna. We wanted to know the meaning of those different words and how to remember Krishna at the time of death. Discussed the process of remembering the Lord at death. Described Yoga Mishra Bhakti and the attainment of Purusha. Discussed Ananya Bhakti, the list of analyzing material and spiritual worlds, and 2 paths of passing away from the world. One in the light and one in the dark, right? One in the light, one in the dark. So 2 paths. But our path is devotion. We're not concerned with these rituals. The supremacy of devotion in attaining the Supreme. Prabhupada's final quote, chapters 7 through 12 are the essence of Bhagavad-Gita. The first 6 and the last 6 chapters are like coverings of the middle 6 chapters, which are especially protected by the Lord. If one is fortunate enough to understand Bhagavad-Gita, especially the middle 6 chapters, in the association of devotees, then his life at once becomes glorified beyond all penance, sacrifice, charity, speculations, etc. For one can achieve all the results of these activities simply by Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions? Anybody? No questions? We had a lot of questions in the course of the class, so I'm not surprised. Okay, then we'll finish here, meet you tomorrow night. We'll go on to chapter 9. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Bhakti Vrinda ki
Jai.